Hello, everybody. It is 5:30 on the dot, 5:31. Welcome to the Talbot County Board of Education regular meeting. It is Wednesday, October 15th. We are here at TCEC, and I am going to go ahead and move that on October 15th, 2025, the regular board meeting of the Talbot County Public Schools will open at 5:30 p.m. for the purposes of declaring quorum, and then we'll move to closed session as permitted by the Maryland Open Meetings Act, Section 3-305B, Provisions 1, 7, and 8 of the General Provisions Article of the Annotated Code of Maryland, and Section 3-103 of the General Provisions Articles of the Annotated Code of Maryland for the following reasons. Citation 3-305B, Provision 1, regarding personnel reporting, to discuss the appointment, employment, assignment, promotion, discipline, demotion, compensation, removal, resignation, or performance evaluation of appointees, employees, or officials over whom it has jurisdiction, or any other personnel matter that affects one or more specific individuals. Citation 3-305B, Provisions 7 and 8, regarding legal matters. 7, to consult with counsel to obtain legal advice on the following legal matters, and 8, to consult with staff, consultants, or other individuals about pending or potential litigation, which includes the following: a social media lawsuit regarding litigation on behalf of school districts against Facebook, TikTok, Snapchat, and YouTube, a lawsuit regarding an alleged injury to a student, an OCR case regarding special education services, a student case regarding the alleged failure of TCPS to provide a free, appropriate public education, a student case involving school/residential placement, allegations regarding the Child Victims Act. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay, thank you very much. We will be back. Hi, everybody. Thank you for your patience. We had a lot to talk about this evening, but if everybody could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, that would be great. Before I make a motion to approve tonight's agenda, I would like to make a motion to amend the agenda to move our student board member presentations to right before the superintendent's report. One of our newest board members is not here yet. He had a soccer game, so he's running late, and I'd like to give him the opportunity to present his first presentation to us. I need a second.
Second that.
All those in favor? Okay, so we've approved the agenda as amended. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of our previous meeting, which was September 17th, 2025?
I make a motion to approve the minutes of September 17th, 2025.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay. We're going to start this evening with recognition of the public, and that is Dr. Papukai, who will explain to you what we're doing, and I will be there in a second.
So good evening, board members and guests. We are here and proudly here to recognize some of our students this evening for their awards. Thank you for being here and joining us. So the first one is we want to congratulate Easton High senior Jack Perry. He is a National Merit Commended student, and you could see there it's an academic competition for high school students. Recognition by NMSP signifies exceptional academic achievement. Interest begins with taking of the PSAT National Merit Scholarship qualifying test. They're then based on rigorous process that leads to a variety of titles, including commended student. Jack Perry's PSAT and MSQT scores are among the top 50,000 of students nationwide for school year for 25-26. And he was on the news. I don't know if anybody saw the news clip, but he was on the news. So we would like to congratulate Jack Perry in this award. And we'd like to call him up for this. Take our picture out here. Yep. All right, our next lineup of awardees, we are going to start with our Advanced Placement AP students. The members of the board and myself are pleased to recognize academic successes and acknowledge the hard work and dedication of the following high school students as we applaud each of them for a job well done. So this first group are high school students who have demonstrated outstanding college-level achievement through their performance on multiple AP exams. In Maryland, the Advanced Placement program allows high school students to take college-level courses and potentially earn college credit for high scores on AP exams. This program is administered by the College Board. So I am going to call the Advanced Placement Scholars. They received a score of 3 or higher on 3 or more AP exams. I'm going to call Easton High School students and then St. Michael's High School students. Diana Gomez Ramos. Here? Okay. Still clap for her. Kaylee Gregory, and I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Kaylee's not here? Turn this over. And again, these are all Easton High School. Natalie Hahn. And if you could stand right here across the front after you get your certificate, and then we will take a picture. Mary Claire O'Connor. Isabella Pascual Ramirez. Kayla Robb. Greer Keegan. Dakota Lotsky. Zachary Lister. Now going on to St. Michael's High School, Hunter Fitzhugh. Patrick Goler. Ben Murphy. Joshua Wilbert. Oh, Joshua's here. Congratulations, Joshua. Ava Willis. All right, so we'll take our picture here. Our next group of students received Advanced Placement Scholar with Honor. This is granted to students who receive an average score of at least a 3.25 on all AP exams taken and scores of 3 or higher on 4 or more of these exams. Again, I'll start with Easton High School and then St. Michael's. Elliot Hunter Watts. Cadence McGuckin. Joseph Pearson. Alexander Rhodes. Sarah Wheeler. Moving on to St. Michael's High School, Riley Beers. Gotta get a camera. Miles Fox. James McDaniel. Elia Orndorff. All right, ready to take our picture. We're gonna go back behind the board. And our last group is Advanced Placement Scholars with Distinction. These students are recognized. They've received an average score of at least a 3.5 on all AP exams taken and scores of 3 or higher on 5 or more of these exams. Again, starting with Easton High School, Jack Perry. Elmer Pineda. Congratulations, Elmer. St. Michael's High, John Cornish. Tyler Murphy, who's still at a soccer game, and Tess Weller.
Okay, congrats again to everybody we just recognized. And as a parent who finally has a kid in high school taking AP classes, I can fully say that is an incredible accomplishment. And I'm so proud of all of you. It is a really big deal, as I keep saying, but it really is. And you should just be so applauded for your hard work. And thank you for representing us so well.
And also just to know that we will have photographers out to take pictures of students at their school tomorrow. So those that are not here, they'll still get their pictures taken. So.
Okay, next up will be public comment, but nobody is signed up to speak tonight. Does anybody in the audience wish to make a public comment? Okay, thank you very much. We are going to postpone our student board member presentation, so we're skipping over this, but we will come back. Don't worry. Don't look. You don't see it. And we're going to move on to board committee reports, of which I know there are a few this month. So who would like to kick it off?
I have a short one. I met with the MABE Legislative Committee this week, and we just basically talked about how we are going to approach the upcoming legislative session in January. Basically, we oppose any kind of legislation that takes away local control. Also, what's the legislation to make schools safer? We'll be talking about that. And we also spoke about blueprint funding issues. That's it. I also had we met with the elementary grading committee this week and talked about some things we might change, and that's coming soon.
My only report is the MABE conference coming up next week. So everything's in place.
Excellent. And calendar committee kicked off this past month as well.
So we're working on trying to be creative with our calendar. So we'll see what we come up with. And we have a meeting coming up in November.
I would like to dig in a little bit more on calendar committee because the last sort of set of guidelines and expectations about what we were doing with our calendar came from the board prior to the election. So a few of you weren't here when we discussed what we are looking for as a board from our calendar committee. So we're not here to litigate spring break or not at this moment, but I think that as a board, we should have a brief discussion about what we think our calendar, what we think we should be accomplishing with our calendar. So we are giving our committee some direction and some, so they're not just spinning their wheels on something that we then is brought back to us and we say, well, that's not what we wanted at all. So I will say the last board, our overall feeling was that we are looking for out-of-the-box thinking on our calendar. Currently, we are required by the state to have 180 school days. The state does not care about the number of hours that we are in school. They are piloting changing that in Anne Arundel County, but that hasn't come here yet, so we don't have that option. Students have to be in school 180 days. We also have a contract which determines how many days the teachers need to be in school. As a board, we expressed some hesitation around too many half days in the calendar, which puts a burden on families and parents. We expressed a desire for more professional development, which is in direct conflict to what I just said. We expressed the desire for the calendar committee to think outside the box and bring a calendar that took everybody's needs into consideration and maybe come up with some different suggestions from things that we have done in the past, look at other states, for examples, for how their calendar might be set up or other different ways of thinking. So that's the history. If you guys completely disagree with that and you want to go in a totally different direction, now is the time to speak up.
I was just saying who was going to speak first. So when the calendar committee is brought together, I am hoping that the calendar committee has a variety of individuals who could have a parent perspective, who could have a student perspective, who could have a educator perspective. And I would like for the calendar committee, in my opinion, to be able to have the liberty to come back to us with what they would like to see in the calendar with a variety amount of opinions and perspectives, and just being objective about it.
I believe I know we have teacher and a parent, but I'm not sure about the student.
It was discussed or mentioned that a student voice is important. We know as a board, I think we are all committed to student voice and getting more students involved. So that is a suggestion I think that we could pass along to our superintendent. Please.
I know it's been talked about what other neighboring counties do. Yeah, and I know one of the neighboring counties puts out 3 different calendars and lets the community vote on which of the 3 they like the best. And honestly, I don't think that's a bad idea.
So that's Queen Anne's County. And we had, again, in previous iterations of the board, discussed how we could potentially align our calendars with surrounding counties to make it easier for families who teach in one and have students in the other. And, we're all pretty close. Dr. Pepikai and I were at a training a few months ago, and we did float this idea to some neighboring counties. And we were met with some interest. They thought that would be a good idea too, but the way that they all approached their calendars were very different. And Queen Anne's County, for example, lets their community vote on theirs. So unless we were willing to wait for the county or the community of Queen Anne's County to pick their calendar and then align ours with theirs, they're kind of, we can try to model as close as we can, but we can't be in total alignment. That said, Dr. Pepikai brought this up with the superintendents of those schools and also heard something related.
Yeah, so we've had one meeting, our last month meeting, where we all talked about our calendars. Everybody was cranking up their calendar committee work. So we all said we're going to come together to look at, I believe at the calendar committee, they shared everybody's calendars, days, and things like that. But we are still talking about what others are doing so we can continue to share.
I think that would be helpful and important to keep that line of communication open as we work towards developing a final model to be in as close alignment as we can. I think that would be a benefit to everybody on the shore, at least this part of the shore.
Amy, did you say voted on by the community or the board?
Yeah, so what Queen Anne's County does is they establish 3 different iterations of the calendar, and then they put it out to the community with a vote. And whatever calendar comes back with the most votes is what they go with.
Community or public in general?
I think parents, teachers, board members, everybody collectively votes, and that's what they go with. And I mean, that would certainly cut back on all the back and forth on it.
Do they vote via a survey, or how's the voting done, if you have any idea?
We can ask. I believe it's via survey. Their president filled us in when we were talking to her about this, and they said, well, we just vote on it. So we just put it out there and we vote on it. We have done calendar surveys in the past. We have, as a board, put out varieties of calendars and said, pick which one you like best. So our community has participated in that way. It wasn't the final say. I don't believe. Dr. Einhorn might remember. Did we let the committee or did we let the community vote on the calendar? Or did we just have them weigh in on options? Okay.
Yeah, I think one of the concerns, and I brought this up, was the fact that making sure we hit if we're going to do something like that, making sure we're hitting the whole community, because it seems like it, as much as we try to get the word out, it doesn't hit everyone.
Any other feedback for calendar committee to debate over this at this time? This will come back again and again. Dr. Einhorn's favorite, I know. Okay, any other committee reports this month? Anybody else? Okay. All right, next up, we have new business, starting with policy 2.9, board staff communications, which is in first reader.
Yep. So this is first reader 2.9. This is still our journey of updating a lot of policies that were last reviewed in 2010. So our policy committee meets the first Wednesday of every month, and we are going through various policies and updating them. A few minor revisions here to this policy. The changing of how we call the Board of Education. We changed that in the first line there. And just some minor, number one, again, the board getting the advice through various advisory committees and events. So before it was just the citizens, but we get our feedback now from just more than citizens. We have a lot of advisory committees and other events and ways that we get our information. 2, you could see again, scratch out of education. 3, we just some scratch out of just the media instead of just what we have, just redundancy there with the lines. 4, again, just some semantics. 5, not a lot of changes, just again, updating it to the terminology that we'd like to use now. So again, this is in first reader. It will be back next month.
Does anybody have any questions about policy 2.9? I actually do, and I don't know if there's an answer to this question,
Okay.
but I know in the community, quite often you hear somebody throw out the term, well, the board said, blah, 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 and they're not actually talking about the elected Board of Education. They're talking about somebody here at the board office who said something, and it falls under the same umbrella. And so as such, I actually find striking of education confusing, because in like layman's terms, the board means every single person who exists in any capacity in this building. So I would suggest not striking out of education.
Back to further that point, I can't tell you how many times I've heard, well, the board said no, and it was something that I had never even heard about.
So we could just do the Board of Education of Talbot County and just repeat that first phrase in the first line and keep that throughout.
Yes.
Okay.
It's a little much,
Okay.
I understand. And again, it's a layman's term, kind of confused. But is there a reason that it would be struck, or is it just for simplification?
Well, the first line under philosophy where it says the Board of Education of Talbot County, and for the rest of it, just known as the board, just tagged it as the board. That's what that references. So when it reads the board, it's really talking about the Board of Education. That's all that is.
So
Which is
that's not,
completely fair.
is that us, board? Or, okay.
Yep. Board of Education of Talbot County. That's you all.
And that's distinguished between the district.
Correct. Correct.
So I understand that first line. I'm thinking if that is maybe not the correct grammatical position, but I thought it normally says, in something about throughout this policy, this is what it will be referred to as the board, rather than just one parenthesis, where you say the Board of Education of Talbot County, and you have in parentheses the board. I think there's something else that comes before.
Well,
You know what I'm saying?
and I got my advice from Ms. Eisenberg about how to call a Board of Ed, in which we're trying to update. So
I think that's fine, but I think there's something else that goes in the parentheses that says, and will be
Otherwise known
referred to-
as-
Otherwise, yes.
got it. Okay. Yep. I see.
So that way it'll settle
Yep.
everything else from 1
Yeah.
through 5.
Gotcha. Okay.
And then my other question is the last sentence of number 5,
Uh-huh.
where it says, it is the intent of the board to be informed as to the needs and concerns of the staff. especially as they relate to students. And where that is true, it's not inclusive of everyone else within the community. So I'm not sure if you want to take out staff and just say it is the intent of the board to be informed as to the needs and concerns, especially as they relate to students,
Okay.
or something a little bit more generalized there, so
Okay.
it doesn't look like we're just here for
Okay.
staff.
Okay. And I think that was there because of the title of board and staff communications, but we could take that out. I mean,
I'm open to other feedback from the
Yep.
board. That's just what when I look at it with
Yeah.
first glance, that's just
Yeah.
what I see and interpret.
Is there another section somewhere else that is board public communications or board other entity communications?
Yeah,
Because
this was it.
this particular section is about board staff communications.
yeah, this was the only policy that referenced board staff communications.
Board, there's not a board public communications.
Yeah, not
or
that I saw. I
board-
mean, we can look, but that's not to say that a policy can't be created around that.
Are there ARs that go with this?
No AR was with us.
Okay. This is such a huge topic and one that we actually talk about a lot, appropriateness of board and staff communications and what is the chain of command and how is the board directs the superintendent and the superintendent directs the staff and what is the appropriate way to communicate. And this doesn't really touch on any of that, nor does it touch on it also it goes outside of board staff communications. And I hesitate to say we need a broader policy, but I think that we need a board communications policy that has a staff section and answers those questions or talks about them and also talks about board community relations, communications, board, all of the various facets. It seems like it is trying to do too much without doing enough.
Yeah. So what I could do is look to see what areas of communication, what policies are tagged to communications under that board umbrella, whether it's staff or anything that's associated with that. I think there's kind of like a standalone. So, but I'll look to see. And if not, we can draft this up and maybe put some ARs to have some explanation of the practices that go behind this.
I think that would be great because, for example, section number 2, the board is representative of the people of Talbot County and therefore encourages public attendance at all open meetings of the board. Yes, that is entirely true. What does that have to do with board staff communications? Nothing. But it shouldn't, it's policy. It should
Yeah.
be written down somewhere. I just don't know that this is the correct spot for it.
Yeah.
Or perhaps the section isn't titled the way it needs to be
Right,
titled.
right. And we've done that. I mean, we've taken policies, in the last few years and changed, collapsed policies, changed titles of policies. I mean, that's definitely under your purview.
So before this moves to second reader,
So we'll go back,
could we please reevaluate the
Yep.
entire policy altogether?
we'll look at this.
And come
yep.
back and look at maybe an expanded or different
Yep.
titled or something that
And I'll look at some other policies out there to see.
would be great.
what's
Does
related.
everybody else agree? Okay, thank you very much.
Yep.
Next up, we have policy and AR 10.18, which is student searches, questioning, and arrests on school premises. Discussion led by Mrs. Spurrier.
Can you hear me? Okay. Good evening, President Jackson, board members, Dr. Papakai. Tonight, I'm bringing before you policy, an update of policy in AR 10.18, which is it's really a whole new policy in AR because the initial one just covered interrogations and searches. We've changed that title to student searches, questioning, and arrests. We want it to cover the arrests because it sort of gives the administrators a one-stop shopping to go to get all the information that they need. And so you'll see that the policy was last updated in 2017, and you'll see the strike-throughs, and then the AR that's attached is rather lengthy. I think the initial AR was like 3 or 4 pages, and this is up to 6 because it does cover everything, and we've tried to close some of those loopholes. Another addition that we added was a documentation piece, which we've not been doing. So whenever a student is searched, there will be a documentation form that's completed. There will also be a documentation of staff who are trained as authorized searchers if they're going on a field trip. So it just adds that piece for us. And so this is first reader. It would come for second reader next month. Are there any questions?
Look, can we just give everybody a second to look through the very long AR?
Sure.
Does anybody right off the bat have any questions?
I had a question, because I was reading this earlier, that students are protected under 2, students searches, and then 2, student searches on school premises. Students are protected against unreasonable search and seizure by school officials by the 4th Amendment. However, school officials do not need a warrant to conduct a search of a student, and the level of suspicion required to justify a search is not probable cause. So they are able to conduct a search because, and they can just say, where is it? That there's reasonable belief. So they are able.
Yes, we are able to do searches if we have reasonable belief. I should also say, just for your information too, when I rewrote this, I looked at policies from Frederick, Howard, Anne Arundel, and Baltimore County. It did go before the policy committee, and Ms. Eisenberg has also reviewed it. But to answer your question, Ms. O'Connor, yes, we can absolutely do searches if we have reasonable belief.
I would think that's pretty open. It's not like it would be impossible to do that. Because I could say, yeah, I have a reasonable belief that this kid has some kind of weapon. And under that, I'm able to search.
Yes, if we have reasonable belief that a student has an item which would be a violation of law or TCPS regulations and policies, then we would have the ability to search that student.
Anybody else? Questions? No? Thank you for digging in on this. Again, long policy, a lot of people to talk to about it. Thank you for your help, everybody who participated in this.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate it. Next up, we have Chapel District Elementary School Window Glazing Project. It's a FY26 school safety grant, which requires contract approval. And Mr. Schaefer is going to talk to us about this.
Thank you, President Jackson. Good evening, members of the board. Yes, very brief presentation regarding the FY26 Maryland Center for School Safety safety grant, grant funding that's available to us. This year, we have requested to have the window glazing installed at Chapel District Elementary School. Because of the cost overruns at bid time, this was one of the items that we had to not move forward with during construction. So this was similar to all of our other schools that have window glazing installed on the new building. Once complete this summer, I would like to go ahead and install the security window glazing. And so that's what this contract approval would allow me to do with those grant funds. So
Potentially stupid question. What's window glazing?
it is so, yeah. So window glazing is a window security film. And what that does is prevents easy access to the school building from breaking the window and reaching in and opening a door. So it's all exterior windows would receive the glaze and would be protected.
Is it also tinting of some kind, or is it?
It is
Not
not.
that.
It does have like a very, very light haze to it. So, you know, but it's relatively clear. You won't be able to tell, you know, just looking out the window that it's there.
Okay, so just thinking about Chapel and what it's going to be, there's a ton of huge windows along the front. Can you just see directly into the library and the new classrooms?
Yes, yes. Now it is tempered glass, so there is a kind of a natural reflectiveness to it. But yeah, the window glazing is not going to affect that, you know, the aesthetics of the glass. But you're right, there's a lot of windows in this new building, and so it's reflective in the price. But this is something that, that we've felt from a safety security perspective is important. And so we want to make sure that Chapel's consistent with the other buildings.
Do the other buildings have this?
Yes, all school buildings. And we've used grant funding for all of those installations. So, and it's actually the same firm, NGS, National Glazing Solutions. It's a TIPS contract. So it is a participative contract that we're utilizing to complete this work.
I'm obviously in favor of especially using grant funds for this. This is great. We should definitely do that. I do have slight hesitations about privacy and view through these large windows into classrooms and libraries, but also at other schools, for example, the view directly into the playground at East Elementary School. So as we move forward, I would love to hear if there are other school safety grants available in the privacy arena to provide more screening for our students.
Sure, that is something that we can always look at. And this is an annual grant that's available each year.
I move to vote on the Chapel District Elementary School window glazing project. In favor of it.
Second.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay, thank you, Mr. Schaefer.
Thank you very much.
Next up, we have unfinished business, starting with the Easton High School lighting project requires contract approval. Mr. Schaefer, take it away.
Yes, so once again, I believe it was in May of this year, we brought a preliminary proposal to the board from Barbizon Lighting Company to, replace the lighting system at Easton High School auditorium, at the auditorium there. And since that time, we've, spent the last however many months formalizing the contract and formalizing the design and all that stuff. And so the price has come down a little bit, only about $4,000, so no significant reduction. But we went from $1,111,000 to $1,107,000 for the replacement of the lighting and rigging systems at the auditorium. And once again, using a participative contract through TIPS, we would like to move forward with this contract with Barbizon.
Mr. Schaefer, what is the installation window? When would it be operational?
That's a good question, and that's also a very difficult piece to this. So the contract would allow for summer installation, but there's going to have to be some spring work that's going to have to kind of precede that summer work, or else it will not be done in time for all of the festivities, opening day, and that type of stuff. What they're hoping to get done is installation of the new rigging, the light bars in that space when available throughout the remainder of this year. So if we move into contract or issue a PO, I would work with them to do that between now and summertime.
Is that going to affect the play?
No, it will not affect the play.
How about the variety of concerts and other events that the elementary schools use the auditorium for?
No, it won't. We will make sure that we're not impacting, any of the already scheduled events. This would be a benefit to them to find time to allow them to come in and work. Maybe it's going to be even evenings and weekend work to upgrade those rigging systems now, or install them, not upgrade them, but install them. So it's just going to be a matter of demoing the old rigging systems rather than having to demo and then install.
I make a motion that we approve the Easton High School auditorium lighting project for the total project amount of $1,107,420.93 as presented this evening.
I second.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay, thank you very much, Mr.
Thank you.
Schaefer. Where are we? All right, next up we have policy 5.8, which is the staff use of computers, media, telecommunications devices, and systems, which is in second reader. The discussion will be led by Mr. Steve Wilson.
Good evening. President Jackson, members of the board, Dr. Pepakay. We were here last month, and we've made some additional changes. We've made sure the language has been consistent. We have taken out the word computer wherever it was listed and replaced it with electronic or electronic devices. I believe, and then on the second page, let's see, 520. You should have that in your, section 5 is an additional, is the piece about the private and personal information and paragraph that we added to the other document. So otherwise, we've not made any other significant changes. The cross-throughs were there before. They were just language that was really not relevant to the document.
Questions for Mr. Wilson?
Could you say more about I'm sorry, did you want to, I was just going to ask if you can say more about that, what that section 5 is intended to address.
Okay.
Acceptable use for employees.
And with that, how do you monitor particularly the inappropriate?
What we're looking to do here is to the Public Information Act, the Family Educational Rights recognize that the research involves internet, and it's, I mean, what is it? What's inappropriate? That kind of, we don't exactly have an exact definition of what's inappropriate, but we block everything that we believe is inappropriate. So, including on the staff site. Just to reduce the risk to students and any sensitive and any staff members that might find that information somewhat sensitive. So that's kind of the background.
I don't, I know there's probably really no way you can monitor some of the stuff you say for a school or a workplace setting. The workplace setting, I understand, but for a school, and I'm just thinking of the things that we see on TV with sexual inappropriateness and pictures and teachers and so forth.
Well, those things are handled by the internet filter. So everybody who's on our network is subject to the internet filter. We have certain settings that we allow for staff that we don't allow for students and so forth.
Anything outside the school that happens is not going to fall on us.
I'm sorry, would you say it again?
If anything that should happen outside the school with inappropriateness, it would not come back on us if it was, I'm thinking of, do you understand what I'm trying to get at?
Well, the students and staff have responsibilities not to load inappropriate things on their computer. Okay, I mean, they have the ability to do that. I mean, we're not blocking if they receive something in email or they choose to, download something or create something, it's not going to prevent that. But will it come back to us? Well, we have student responsibilities, but we also have, because it's our device, obviously, somebody may come back and approach us about the fact that we might have liability, but as far as the filtering goes, we prevent internet access to inappropriate content.
I just want to say we went around on this one and the next one, 10.32, acceptable use for students. These policies will be continued to talk about with AI in our guidelines. There will be an AI conference coming up in December, statewide. And so I talked to the policy committee and even the board about hearing the landscape of the state as far as AI, where this fits in our technology. As I'm going around to my roundtables, I'm talking about us coming up with a longer 3-year plan around technology, acceptable use for student, staff, and instructional technology, and what this means. Because we even had members on our policy committee talk about the appropriateness of applications and things they may want to use with students, and what's the proper process for that. So we got into some good discussions about this whole topic of technology and AI. And so this isn't done, and I think we're going to be coming back and doing, I've told roundtables that I am inviting a larger group to come around the table to talk about this topic and to come up with more policies and guidelines around this area. So I just wanted to let everybody know that.
Ms. Wheelan-Cherry, when we get into the AR, the item G does help define the inappropriate material. And so,
Do we use TCPS remote servers?
in what capacity? When you say remote servers, we have a variety of virtual servers we have on premises, about 45 or so, in addition to the cameras and so forth. But we also have some of our servers that part of PowerSchool are remote. I mean, they're run by the company, by PowerSchool themselves. There are a variety of instructional things like McGraw-Hill and so forth that are used by students that are all what we call SaaS, or software as a service. So those are all cloud-based servers. So it's a combination of on-premises as well as cloud-based servers.
Okay, I think that answers my question, because I'm just looking at Roman numeral 4, where you say, in addition, postings and communications related to their professional role as TCPS employees must only be done using Talbot County Public School servers. So I just wanted to be sure that if a teacher is, or staff member is working from home and maybe they're posting grades, or, you know, if they're on a TCPS server or not, because we don't want to restrict them. You know, we don't want to hold them to a policy if it's not
So anything
what we
that
can actually provide.
So anything we hold a subscription for would be off-site, as well as what we have licenses for on-site. So they would have access to all of our servers. So there's no restriction as to what they have access to. Does that clarify?
No, I think your applications are different than your servers, right?
Well, the applications run on the servers.
So if I'm working from home, I can only access PowerSchool from a TCPS server?
Yes, you would, just as if you were on site, you'd have the same exact access from home. And it would be our server, and we do host that PowerSchool student information server, yes.
Okay, I don't have an IT background, but I'm thinking of something different. Maybe I have a different thought with the
Well, if they're actually,
definition of a server.
well, the server is usually a piece of hardware in which all the software and data resides on. So you would have access to that device, and that device sits on our property. Okay, so the teacher from home or the teacher or working from school has access to the exact same server with that application. So the grade book, the attendance, all of that is available to them wherever they are.
I thought I heard you just say, though, that PowerSchool maintains its own server that we have access to. We have a subscription to it.
Well, yeah, we have licenses, and then we own, well, we lease, or we have license to use a lot of different programs on PowerSchool. The accounting software is all part of PowerSchool. Our data warehouse is part of PowerSchool, but that's stored in the cloud. The grade book and the contact information, attendance, all that is on our server that's local in our building.
So are our employees restricted into what they can and cannot do?
The restrictions don't change whether they're at home or at work, or if they're working from home. I'm not making that clear. So the teachers have no restrictions. I mean, they're allowed to do exactly what they can do at school, so the work is still the same. So any other communications would be setting up websites. They could use the Schoology just to set up a website. They could, they may be able to post things on our website, but
Is it similar, Mr. Wilson, to when we're using Diligent and we are off-site? It's coming through the Talbot County Public Schools server?
well, Diligent is a cloud-based service, okay? So it's almost indistinguishable because the user never knows exactly where the data is coming from. So whether it's on our premises or if it's in the cloud, it's just servers that are owned by the company, the manufacturer, or the software provider, the publisher, or the servers are owned the physical servers are owned by us. So whether you click to Diligent, that information is going to pop up for you. And no matter where you are, you have the exact same set of privileges. The same thing with PowerSchool, teacher or administrator, the privileges remain the same, and where that data comes from, it's indistinguishable to the end user. It's just like if you click on Amazon, you don't know if you're using the San Diego servers, or you don't know if you're using the Massachusetts servers, or it's invisible or undistinguishable to the user. But those are all servers we have the rights to use, whether we rent the space from the publisher or we own the space that we have on premises.
Any other questions? Would somebody like to make a motion?
I make a motion in favor of the policy update, second reader, policy 5.8, staff use of computers, media, and telecommunications devices and systems. Did I get it right?
A second, obviously with technology, there was quite a massive review gap on this particular policy, and I think with technology, it should likely be reviewed more often.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you, Mr. Wilson. Stay right there, because next up we have acceptable use of technology and internet safety for students, policy code 10.32, section 10. And the accompanying AR, sorry.
Yeah, so again, these changes, we have some cross-throughs on some language that is extraneous. It doesn't really speak to the policy. So those were the cross-throughs that we had. We took out the word computers and replaced it with electronic devices, though it might not be highlighted in that first sentence, but we are trying to stay consistent with all the language. But I'll take any questions.
Does anybody have questions for Mr. Wilson? No. Respectfully, I will be voting no on this, and I just want to explain my vote before I make it. I understand what Dr. Pepukai is saying, and that this requires further review. However, as I stated in August when we first discussed this, I think that a policy that is 20 years out of date requires much more intense updating than just changing a few words here and there, and I don't see that reflected in this second reading of the policy. And so, again, respectfully to Dr. P as well, I hear you saying that there is a 3-year sort of look going into these policies, and I think that when we're talking about internet safety for our students and acceptable use of technology, it's not something we can wait 3 years on. I would expect to see a more forward-thinking, appropriate to this day and age policy now, as opposed to 3 years from now. So that is why.
Yeah.
But
No, I think you misunderstood. It won't be in 3 years, but the plan will be done next year for 3 years, a plan that incorporates 3 years. And with this, we looked at all policies, and they're pretty much similar to what we have. I don't know what else, unless we, scour other places, but I specifically looked at every district's policy that was acceptable use, and it was pretty general. Now, their practices were very different and how they carried out, but the policy itself was pretty much similar to what we had.
Sure, thank you for the clarification first, and fair enough. I also don't see a lot of changes in the ARs, which is the practices. So my vote stands, or that's how I will vote, just explaining it ahead of time.
I think your concern is valid. We had a significant gap in when the previous technology policies were updated. However, there are some important updates in this that I think we should go ahead with and then pen this policy to come back soon, including the use of 3D printers, which I have firsthand knowledge of that being a huge problem in other counties outside of Maryland. And right now we have literally no coverage on that particular topic.
Anybody have more questions for Mr. Wilson?
I was going to say, I think this is going to need to be continually evolving. And so I appreciate that we have some updates here. It does reference 3D printers as an example of peripheral devices. So I appreciate that you have made some tweaks, and that I hope that we will continue to look at this frequently to evolve this as technology evolves.
Okay, this is got to come to a vote. Would anybody like to make a motion?
I would like to make a motion that we pass this policy with the recognition that it will be updated again in the very near future.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. And I am opposed. Okay, next up, hold on, I'm lost. We have second reader of policy 7.1, personnel policies and goals, with Dr. Horsey.
Good evening, President Jackson, the board members, as well as Dr. Papakaye. I stand before you for the second reader for Personnel Policies and Goal 7.1. You'll notice in the AR part of the policy, there was some changes done to page 3, as noted. Were there any questions about policy 7.1, personnel goals, policies and goals?
It looks like people are looking. Give us just 1 second, please.
Okay. Bless you.
Any questions for Dr. Horsey? Okay, this is in second reader. We need to vote. Would anybody like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion for the policy update, second reader, policy 7.1, personnel policies and goals, in favor.
Second.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Horsey. Next up, we have our, are you still there?
Yes.
Oh, I skipped over that one. My apologies. I thought we were there. Next up is 7.2, Employee Code of Conduct, and the accompanying AR, which is also in second reader. We last talked about this policy at our July meeting, so it's been a minute.
Yes. So you'll notice in policy 7.2, the policy has been updated. The AR has been updated to reflect the conduct related terms and related to the personnel, employee conduct, I'm sorry.
curious, did you compare this to any other?
Yes, I did. I looked at our surrounding districts as well as Anne Arundel, as well as Howard County. This too is one of those policies that will probably come back before you at some time because things are ever changing, but it was an older policy that needed some updates in order to meet currently where we are.
Okay, more questions for Dr. Horsey? No. I need a motion on policy 7.2. This is in second reader.
I make a motion that we approve policy 7.2.
I second.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now we're moving on to our consent items. And I would like to take a minute to talk about where we have gotten with our consent agenda and why we are using it at all. The point of consent agenda is to abbreviate parts of the meeting that do not require further discussion, will essentially, waste is the wrong word, it's too strong of a word, but we are trying to be judicious with our time and make sure that we are spending the most amount of time talking about things that are the most important as related to student outcomes. Not everything requires a full introduction, bring up somebody to the podium, have questions, talk through it. We are, in the interest of time, we have introduced consent agenda. We have gone in a few different directions with how we have tried to use it, so we are going in a new direction which we think is most appropriate. So as of now, what we have in consent agenda are items that either to us creating the agenda do not require conversation. It's something that could be an email, essentially. A policy that has come before you and had no questions, has received no comments, and seemingly will be a just sweeping yes. Am I missing anything? Okay, that said, if there is anything in here that you want more information on or you would like to discuss, you can pull out anything at any time. So we will vote on all of these at once, which is the consent agenda, unless you say, excuse me, I would actually like to talk about, for example, policy 9.15, I had a question, or I think that we need further discussion on the new plan for virtual education, or whatever it may be, which is totally fine. It's worth spending time on if you have questions or you think we need to discuss it. Does that make sense to everybody? Yes? Okay. Again, if we find that we have taken a misstep and we are moving in the wrong direction and this consent agenda does not make sense for you or our community, we will retool it again and look in a different direction, or maybe not use it at all. But for now, we're going to give this a shot. So that said, here are the items in our consent agenda, and I make a motion that we approve the 1, 2, 3, 4 things in consent agenda this evening.
Second.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay, and that wasted all the time that we saved by putting it in consent agenda, but hopefully next month this will save us a bunch of time. Thank you very much. Okay. Next up, we have our personnel report with Dr. Horsey.
Good evening once again. I would like to ask the board to approve the personnel report as presented in closed session.
I'll second that. Hear this out eventually. I'm in favor of the personnel report as presented in closed session.
I second that.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Horsey. And next up, we have the monthly finance report with Mrs. Jones.
Good evening, members of the board. I'm just going to take a minute and run through this report since it's the first time I'm presenting it to you this year. This is the financial report for the 3 months ended September 30th, 2025, and we'll compare our approved budget to our actual cash expenditures and our encumbered amounts. So first off, at the top, we see our revenue. We are on track this year. Just for your information, we get our Talbot County appropriation in 12 equal installments on a monthly basis, and our state appropriations in equal bi-monthly installments, 6 of those. And then going down and looking at our expenditures in the bottom section, obviously our budget is in the left-hand column. Our cash expenditures are running about 15% of our annual budget so far this year, and that's very consistent with last year at this time. The next column that is titled year-to-date obligations, those are our encumbered amounts, and those represent the balance of salaries that will be paid between now and the end of the year, as well as contracts we've entered into with vendors to purchase goods and services. The combined expenditures column, second from the right, is the sum of our cash expenditures and what we've been obligated to pay. And then the final column on the right indicates whether we are over or under budget. As you would expect at this time of year, we're under budget in all categories. And that is my report.
Questions for Mrs. Jones? Okay, thank you so much. Do we want to review this?
I was just going to
Okay.
run through the timeline with you. This is something we developed. It's comparable to last year with our schools and departments working on their parts of the budget through November, and then in December, us starting to assemble all of that into one big package. At the December board meeting, I would come to you with our projected revenue, and that's important. And then in January at the work session is when we would do the full presentation of the budget in detail. At the January board meeting, we would pass it to first reader. We also, late in January, unfortunately, after our board meeting, is when we get our actual revenue projections from the state. It's just unfortunate timing. And then we progress, as we did last year, through February. We have a public budget hearing. We talk about it at a work session if we need to. We pass it hopefully on February 11th, get it into the county council. In March, we usually go to the county council and do a presentation and then a follow-up set of questions. And then in May, we start to get some feedback as to what our appropriation from the county is going to be. And then in the June timeframe, and the June timeframe may have to be altered a little bit. I don't have the county council's schedule yet, and that might be a factor in terms of our timing of getting things approved in a final form in June.
Questions? Anybody else? A little deja vu? Yeah. Thank you, Mrs. Jones. Okay, next up, are we going to do student board member? Yeah. We paused. Hi, Tyler. Thank you for joining us. Did you guys win? Oh, I'm sorry. But you won. We all say you won. It's fine. We paused and waited for you to come so you guys could both do your student board members at your first meeting. So we moved this to the end of the agenda. So welcome to the meeting. And Elmer, I think you're up first, right? Who's up first? Elmer, you're first. Yes. If you do your presentation from the podium up there. And that mic is always on, right? Or does he have to press the button?
Yeah, I think it's on already, and then all you have to do is forward the button on the laptop. It's on already. Yep, okay.
I don't. Oh, good evening, everybody. This is the presentation for Easton High School this past month. So first of all, I wanted to mention and give recognition to our fall sports. Football has a record of 5-1 right now after an insane comeback against Kent Island. I'm not sure if you guys were there for that game, but the atmosphere was crazy. We were down 17-0, and we came back to win 21-20. Field hockey, they're also on an incredible run as well, beating a top school, Pocomoke, in a 2-1 victory. They went to the state semifinals last year, and we're hoping we can make a far run again this year. And then additionally, we had golf, girls soccer. Their senior night was held last week, and then this week we've had boys soccer. Tonight was their senior night, and then we have field hockey. Their senior night was tonight as well. And then we have football, cross country, and volleyball senior nights are coming soon. For our activities, these are more so our senior activities, as well as homecoming. The picture on the right, homecoming was held on September 20th. Very fun event. And then just this last Friday, we had our senior sunrise in Warrior Stadium. And then additionally, in the last 2 weeks, we started our cap and gown orders. So as we reached that graduation day, we started to prepare. For clubs, we have myself as the executive president, and then on my left, that's Cadence McGuckin, who is our vice president. So we had new SGA, Officer Student Government Association. All new officers were elected. And then additionally, we had National Honor Society, Spanish Honor Society, Latin Honor Society, selecting and electing new members as well. And apart from that, we had Math Club, who started again, and we will continue to tutor students who need help. And the Interact Club continues to grow their service projects in our community. They continue to do incredible work in our community. For the fine arts, we have our band, our marching band, and they compete in their first graded competition, and they will continue to perform as we get closer to the Christmas date. Theater will also begin Wizard of Oz edition soon, and they will also participate in the Festival of Trees fundraiser again this year as they did last year. And choir is also preparing for their winter concert, and band and choir will perform on Veterans Day. So that's an event if you guys are interested in attending. And in our community, we had Easton High School. We won the grand prize in the first ever Midshore Constitution Bowl. Shout out to St. Michael's as well for winning the smaller school region, as they called it. But Easton, we took home the grand prize, as you can see. Very eventful competition. And then additionally, we also had the Maryland Supreme Court, which was a huge honor, a big event. They heard cases, oral arguments at the Easton High School. The first time in over 170 years in which they held oral arguments in Easton. So it's nice of them to come back home, right? And then we were able to not only witness the event, but we were also able to interact with them. They held a question and answering session after the arguments, and then select amount of students, we were able to have lunch with them and communicate with them and talk to them one-on-one. And stay tuned for next month, and go Warriors.
Thank you, Elmer. Tyler, you're up next.
So greetings, board members. My name's Tyler Murphy. Just wanted to give you guys a brief introduction to myself. I obviously play soccer. That's why the reason of my tardiness tonight. I appreciate you guys waiting till the end to have me and Elmer present. I'm very excited about this position. Looking forward just for interacting with the board and learning more about the school system. First, a little bit of what we're going to be going over. Saints All In, our sports, clubs and events, our homecoming, which we just had, and then the fine arts. First with Saints All In, this is kind of our initiative this year, keeping the school safe and a happy place, keeping the students interconnected from the staff all the way down to the students through the middle and high school. Talking about connection, community, character, and collaboration. With sports, soccer has a strong record, 7-3-1, 7-4-1 now. And we have the 1 seed of our region. Field hockey's in a bit of a rebuild year at 1-9. They secured their first win last week. And the golf team is competing in the middle of the pack, scoring an average of the team with a score of 200. Clubs and events. The middle high school FCA had their prayer at the pole. This is an annual event where they meet before school and just say a prayer honoring Jesus Christ and as well as America. And then the National Honor Society has been working hard the past 2 months in preparation for Saints Homecoming. We decorated the halls, set up the dance, pep rally, along with Spirit Week. And then to go into homecoming, there was a lot of student interaction from the middle school all the way up to the high school with door decorating, and then each individual class, 6 through 12, got to decorate their own individual hallway. The National Honor Society, which is mainly composed of the senior class, we went in on a Friday night before our homecoming week and decorated our hall to kind of set the example of what a good hall looks like. We also had our homecoming game. It was a soccer game, which at St. Michael's is kind of the big deal since we don't have a football team. And then many people participated in Spirit Week along with attending that game. Over 300 fans in attendance, which in that small area is a big crowd. And then the fine arts, the middle school band, choir, and color guard all had a performance at our game with the choir singing at the national anthem. The band and color guard put on a performance at the halftime show. And then our school celebrated Dot Day, which showcases individualism in each person, how each person is creative in their own way. So everybody decorated their own dot, and then they were hung throughout the hallways. And then the Saints will be performing Descendants, the play, in our winter production. I'll be a part of that. As you can see, I'm on the bottom of this stack right here. And then also the band and choir will have various winter and spring concerts. I'll be, which are definitely worth checking out. It's a good group of kids, including myself. And we have a good time on the stage. So thank you guys very much. I appreciate your time and appreciate you waiting for the end for me and Elmer to have our presentations.
So Tyler was a recipient. He is receiving the Certificate for Advanced Placement Scholar with Distinction. As a reminder, this is a student who gets at least a 3.5 on all AP exams and 3 or higher on 5 or more of these exams. And so we want to honor Tyler Murphy for getting this certificate. And I have to add, last year, I go and sit in on the different SGA meetings that each high school has. And when I went to the St. Michael's SGA, Tyler presented on behalf of the students concerns that they had with some of the aesthetics and some other things in the building. They put together a PowerPoint with pictures of some of the things and advocated for things they wanted done in the building. And as a result, those things got improvements in the building. And so they did a wonderful job in articulating things that they wanted to see done in the school. So he did a wonderful job presenting that on behalf of the SGA. And that was last year. So congratulations on this award. Take your picture.
Thanks, guys. We're happy to have you here. And I love student board member reports. I'm happy that we're back to getting them again. Next up, we have our superintendent's report.
Okay, not a stranger to us, Alex Boyer, who is back for his 3rd year, working with, presenting to our students, made possible through the MD Aware grant. I was able to see, actually that one in the corner at the high school, was able to see him, and the kids just had a fabulous time. A lot of audience participation through his messaging, talking about lemons, when life gives you lemons, how to make lemonade. And he had a song about lemonade, and so the students really enjoyed him coming. Maryland Teacher of the Year Gala, Lauren Rose, and so just a nice night celebrating all of the Teacher of the Years from every county, and so just a nice event to celebrate teachers across the state. Constitution Day, you saw some of those pictures already from our student board members, but the Constitution Day Assembly competition, I wasn't able to go this year, but I know in the past I have attended, and very informative for our students who get to attend this. Staff roundtables, I'm still in the midst of of having those. I was at Easton Elementary this morning, sharing the things that we are doing this year, strategic plan, all that encompasses that, and things that are happening new, as well as some things that we're continuing through the year. You heard about the Easton High School homecoming already, but those are just some pictures from Easton High School homecoming, St. Michael's High School Spirit Week, and homecoming. The Maryland Supreme Court oral arguments that were held at Easton High School. Our students were able to eat lunch with the justices after the oral arguments and engage in discussions in all things about how they got started, the path to where they are, and really some great questions that were asked by our students. It was a really great day. We had our joint county council meeting where we went out to Chapel District Elementary School to see the renovations. We got to sign the beam that's going to be hoisted up in the front of the building once they finish phase 3 of the construction. And then we have the annual Mission Possible event that is coming, where we are honoring Miss Brown from Easton High, Miss Jeannie Hadaway Riccio from St. Michael's High, and Mr. Dale Webb from Robert Russa Moton High School. And so that's always a nice event because we have our teachers who submit grant applications for different things that they want to do with their students. And so a night to be entertained, but also hear about the things our students want to do, and of course celebrate our distinguished alumni. It is National Principal Appreciation Month for the entire month of October, and so we just want to celebrate our principals. Besides teachers being number one factor of our student success and achievement, principals are the number 2 factor of our of student success. And then a long list of upcoming events for October and next month going into November, which will be here in a couple of weeks.
Wow, thank you so much. Closing, it's time for board member remarks, and I am going to start with you guys tonight, so I'm going to explain a little bit in advance. This is your time to comment on things that stood out during the meeting. You can shout out anything that was really interesting. You can share gratitude if you have it. Just sort of, this is your moment. So we're going to start with Tyler, and then we're going to go to Elmer.
Again, I would like to thank you guys for holding off my presentation to the end. I was sad when I saw my phone time at the end of the game and it said 7:45, and I was like, they must have missed me. But then my dad told me that you guys held it off for me, so I was excited about that. I didn't get to see much of the meeting, but what I did like was I was impressed with like the organization of it all, and I saw on Elmer's laptop kind of how everything was very particular and how it flowed very well.
Likewise, I also want to share my gratitude. This is an incredible honor, and I thank you guys again for, holding off, waiting for my peer Tyler could come. In terms of the meeting, again, like Tyler just mentioned, I want to, I was impressed at how formulated everything was, how organized everything is, and in terms of the content of the meeting, I did appreciate the recognition of the AP scholars. I can say being in those classrooms, it's very hard to get overwhelmed with so many classwork. As a matter of fact, after this meeting, I do have a lot of homework to catch up on. And but it is really nice to see recognition and see that the hard work does get recognized, and it definitely is a motivator, especially during this time of the year. I also want to, appreciate the talk about our school devices. I witnessed it firsthand. Though I'm not causing the trouble, I do know many of my peers who are they able to maneuver past the blocks and restrictions. And then it does create, I think uncomfortable is the term environment in terms of what they present and how easy it is to access these things. And I definitely think it is a rising issue. And yeah, again, thank you for this opportunity.
Ms. O'Connor?
Good evening, and of course, we're going to wait for you because your student remarks are the highlight of the evening of all the things that you guys are reporting on, so thank you. And I just, for our work session and the meeting tonight, thank you for Darlene Spurrier, the discipline, I'll all that with the discipline. There's a lot with the discipline, so I hope we can really nail that down. And the academics, I mean, our AP scholars here, this is what we are striving for right here, just high academics, just raising our standards across the board. Grading committee is coming up this year, so I'm excited to just get that out there and hone in on those two issues, especially are my close to my heart.
Ms. Strawberry?
Firstly, congratulations to all those who were recognized tonight, and thank you so much for your presentations. I am a firm believer that you should always listen to the students who are in the grunt of it all, because you have a lot of perspective that sometimes adults don't necessarily have or understand. And so the way that you give your presentations and your cadence while doing it, I love that. So keep it up. We're here for support, so if you have any questions, please let us know. But we're always here to support you. I would also like to say to the staff who come in to present, and also to make sure I have all kinds of follow-ups and literature to make sure that I review if I have questions. Thank you so much, because I know there's a lot of work and preparation that you put into that.
Ms. Dodson?
Say congratulations to all of our noted scholars students tonight. I really want to welcome our new student board members. You guys have a really important voice, and don't be afraid to speak up during these meetings. I know this is your first one and you may be a little tentative about that, but we want you to jump in. We want you to make comments. Your voice matters. I also had the opportunity earlier this week to participate in mock interviews and resume reviews for seniors at Easton High School. And I feel like a lot of people might not know that that sort of thing goes on, but it was really fantastic and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I think it's a wonderful opportunity for these seniors to practice interview skills.
Ms. Wheeler-Cherry?
So I want to reiterate what my colleagues have said. Welcome to the club. I do want to take a moment to recognize a young student who was a student of Talbot County Schools about 5 years ago who committed suicide last week. Please reach out if you need help. If you have friends, you know, it's such a tragedy, and I'm going to his funeral tomorrow, so please say a prayer for the family. You know, a lot of people suffer in silence, but please reach out for help. There are resources available. We're here, family, friends, whomever you need. So thank you.
Mr. Arias?
Our hearts go out to the family and to you and all who knew them. Again, welcome. We're so glad you're here. As others have said, we so appreciate what you bring to us that shows us what's really happening in your schools. And we also so appreciate when you do jump in. We've gotten so many things that your unique perspective, you're there every day. And that's very helpful to us to hear your perspectives. Congratulations again to all of our AP scholars. It's wonderful to see over the past several years how many more students we have taking our AP courses and being very successful. So that is wonderful to see, as well as your stellar achievement in the Constitution Bowl. That was wonderful to hear, and I loved how you connected that with the Supreme Court visit. You know, very, very relevant there. Supreme Court visit was particularly heartwarming to me. I was very proud of our court and our Maryland judiciary. I was so proud of our students and how everyone conducted themselves so respectfully and appropriately during the entire argument, as well as all of the excellent questions that were asked. And I'm also appreciative to all of our staff and team who made the visit possible. It's not a small undertaking to have something such as that at the school, and it was really a very wonderful event to have here at Easton High School. So, and thank you to our team who brought us such good information here tonight, and for all that you do. And thank you to the public for being here and listening and caring about what's going on and being engaged in the work of our Talbot County Public Schools.
I would say ditto to basically everything else that I heard this evening. I also would really like to shout out the student behavior that I saw during the Supreme Court. I did get to come. I came in late and had to leave early, but you could hear a pin drop in that auditorium. I was so proud of our students and their just rapt attention with what was going on. It was very detailed and could have been hard to follow, and I think that everybody was very engaged. And so I always like to take a moment to shout out excellent behavior when I see it in an unexpected place that it seems ripe for things to go wrong, and everything was just beautiful. And I was just so proud to be a part of the Easton High School community in that moment. You guys really shined, and that made me really proud. I want to take a moment to say thank you to everybody who participates in a committee and is doing committee work. Expanding our committees has been a big effort in the past couple of months, years, and we have never called out the policy committee to say thank you for the amount of work and the time that goes into it. Digging through these policies I know can get very tedious, and you're going through old policies word by word. So thank you for all the work that you have been doing. Thank you to the calendar committee and the grading committee, which I know are both spinning up and seem to be requiring more time probably than you thought when you initially signed up for it. So I just really appreciate the people in this community, in our school community, and in our community who volunteer to share their thoughts and their expertise. And I just would like to say that as a board, we do listen. You are the first stop for how we get to great policy is the shared sort of conversation in the committee, and we respect both your time and your opinions. Even if we may not always completely disagree at the end, we appreciate the amount of effort and thought that it goes into it. And there's a bee who's been harassing us for 3 days now, just so you know, if you see me dive. On a personal note, I would just like to say I may not be here next month. One of my children is having surgery, so I'm not skipping out for early Thanksgiving, but I hope to be in this room with you, just as a small FYI. I do really like November at the board, so hopefully I will be here with you. And that said, I hope everybody has a fantastic evening, and I would love it if somebody wanted to make a motion. Oh, Debbie's not here. Somebody else, because somebody has to be Debbie for this evening and make a motion to close the
Get
meeting.
this right. I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Thank you very much, everybody.